right, hello, Sooner Nation. Me and Guthrie just sitting here talking like it's Christmas and we get beat, so we don't have a whole lot to talk about. So we're sitting here talking about. So finally, I just said, I think maybe we should record some of this stuff we're basically going to talk about here. So, it's portal season and Christmas is over. So now it's time for us to jump off a bridge when we don't get the next best thing in the portal. Yeah. So. Or go after quarterback. That's another thing. So.
I think the first thing to talk about is just, okay, no one has entered the portal so far this year that either A, was a surprise, or B, is a big loss. And just in case, if you haven't kept up, here's who's in the portal as of Sunday evening. Marcus Wimberly was someone who never even was in a uniform. Javonte Barnes, Jacob Sexton, Caden Helms, Isaiah Autry-Dent, Kobe McKenzie, Kendall Dolby, Jaden Gibson. Now, the only one of those players who really had any sort of impact was Kobe McKenzie. And while we were both a little surprised to see Kobe McKenzie get in there, if you don't understand that Kobe McKenzie was processed, you're really not paying attention, okay? Mm-hmm. This is a guy, and I'm certainly hoping for Owen Heineke to get an extra year of eligibility. I'm certainly hoping that Kip Lewis, along with Isaiah Satanga, is coming back next year. But all that being said, Kobe McKenzie's a guy who got replaced this year. If you got replaced, you're not going to be like, you know what, let's stay and run that back. You're not going to do that. This is the guy who's wanting to get another payday, wanting to do those things. So long story short, everybody who's on that list so far, there's really no reason to have any bedwetting for that. Am I wrong there, Jeremy?
No, and be prepared, guys. There's probably going to be another one. Like once you start like ciphering through all these meetings and stuff like that with BV, there's going to be some guys that make business decisions. Like, can I go make more money somewhere else? Hey, and don't be surprised if Kip leaves, if Heineke doesn't get his extra year. Like, they go back to McKenzie and say, hey, like, you're going to have this spot here. I mean, I'm guaranteed there's going to be conversations that are had if that's 100%, the case.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's early. It's early. Now, I do love the part of portal season when any player that goes into the portal, people comment and say he would look good in an OU uniform. Now, that said, it could be like a defensive lineman, which is one position like we are deep at. And they're like, oh, I'm like, first off, guys, I'm not saying we're not going to go after guys on the defensive line. We aren't spending big money. That's not a need. So let's dig into what do we think our need is? I mean, Gus, what do you think we should – what is number one? When they look at the portal listings, who do you think we should go? I mean, what position?
I know the prevailing thought, it's tight end. It has to be tight end because tight end helps us with our blocking, with our running game, helps with our passing, on our throwing game. It's tight end, and it looks like we've got good inroads with the big Florida tight end. Looks to be some positive momentum.
How big is that kid? I've heard a
6'8",
lot of different.
I think, right? 6'7", 6'8".
Okay,
like he's a big kid. Fun. And like and this is the guy who started every game for Florida. It's not somebody who actually didn't play. But I do think that's the number one need. And once again, to keep beating the dead horse, I don't know why Joe John Finley still has a job. You can make the running joke of BV's not the kind of guy who fires somebody over Christmas. BV's not the guy who fires somebody over New Year's. BV's not the guy who fires somebody on Valentine's Day. I don't know, whatever it is. But that being said, I only pray that at some point, Jeremy and I both can be as inept at our position and still get kept.
Yeah. I just don't think there's going to be until next, till we go and turn the page to 2026. I just don't think we're going to see anything changing wise. And also too, there's conversations in the portal and maybe they're wanting to see what kind of feedback they're getting from some of these coaches.
Who knows? I mean, maybe
guys, get prepared.
Maybe they told Joe John, look, if we don't get this Florida dude, you're gone. I don't know. I mean, who knows? I don't know.
I look at it, and also too, I look at it more towards like Murray, just because Murray does attract good talent just because of his name.
Right. I mean, this is a
and
great
you got a
football
guy,
player.
you got a big time running back says, I'm coming to OU, but only if DeMarco Murray's there. Then we probably say, well, maybe we'll keep it to Murray. It's like, I just don't think the Jade Knott and DeMarco Murray deal was a match made in heaven, because I don't think it was on Murray's blimp. I don't think he.
Something that I heard through some sourced people is that, and it's kind of interesting. Gavin Sawchuk, in case anyone hasn't followed, entered the portal today from Florida State. And, some people said that was kind of DeMarco's big point of contention with Jade Knott, is DeMarco wanted to spend that money to keep Gavin Sawchuk, and instead that money went to Jade Knott, and that was kind of the start of some of their issues. And there are lots of wild stories with Jade Knott, and Jeremy and I can go into those at some point in the off season when we don't have anything else to talk about. But but that being said, let's just hope that's a name we don't have to mention anymore on this pod. But no, I would definitely say tight end's the number one position of need. What say you? Do you agree with that, Jeremy, or do you want to just go to what you think is next?
I mean, if you're looking at what do you spend the most money on, I think tight end's one, running backs two, and the only reason I put running backs ahead of receivers is just because we do have some guys at receiver, and also too, we're waiting to hear what Satanga does. I mean, to me, Satanga would be so much better as a number two or a slot guy. He's not a number one. He was our number one this year, but he's not a number one receiver. I mean, let's take our crimson colored glasses off and look at.
Well, and I think it goes into what do you want to define as the number one receiver? And to me and to Jeremy, what we're saying is that's somebody a team has to go in and game plan for and stop. Now, give Alabama credit in that bowl game. I think Alabama, for the most part, had a plan to limit Isaiah Satanga. Now, that being said, looking at film, I think the first play of the game, we probably had a long bomb to him. We could have taken a shot. We didn't take it. And I'm not sure how many other times we had that. But to go back to that, I do think he was a guy in that game that got game planned against, which allowed Deion Burks to step up and have more of the game we'd expected out of Deion Burks. But we need somebody in that Deion Burks position, in that quote-unquote number one receiver position, that people can game plan to stop and still produce too. That's what we need. We need that kind of guy. And right now, those guys are not in the portal. Like Cam Coleman's not officially in the portal right now. There's still lots of tracking of, who's, like I saw today that John Mateer followed Cam Coleman back today. If you're one of those people who follows, Twitter follows, but that's all interesting. I know some people are really high on the Hawaii receiver who entered today. But going back to what Jeremy said, I think a dude running back would certainly be something that we need and we could certainly use. I had someone ask me this today, Jeremy, and I just want your opinion. If we could only keep one of Robinson and Blaylock, which one would you keep?
Robinson.
Okay. See, I'm Blaylock.
And I think it's just because I've seen a bigger size of Robinson and Blaylock. Now, that said, I know they're going to go in the lab and they're going to put some weight on him. I felt even in the first part of the season that he was too physical a runner in that body. It's like he's going to be hurt. And what happened? He got hurt. Robinson, I mean, he runs. That's just his style of running. Not to say he's much bigger than Blaylock, but I don't know. It just seems like anytime we've called on Robinson, he's always answered the bell for us. He's always been that guy of consistency, but when he's hurt, he doesn't help us. And I think, and that's one thing I look at it too, is we keep those two running backs. It gives us, we got to build some depth in the running back room.
Yeah.
Because you got to be prepared. Like when you have injuries happen, which running back usually deals with injuries, find you somebody to just build some depth and also to challenge those two running backs.
And we need people who want to play football. I mean, like Barnes taking himself out of, in the most recent Gabe and Teddy pod, Gabe kind of went off on Barnes a little bit. And I mean, and he's right. I mean, you can't have people who just refuse to play. And running back's a position. It's a little bit like cannon fodder, a little bit of, these are the people you have to put on the front lines. They're going to take a lot of arrows, and you've got to have numbers of people who can be productive. And we need that big bell cow who's the number one guy, but we also need people to take reps because, what if that was a healthy running back that dropped that pass instead of Xavier Robinson? Maybe it's not dropped, but we had guys who were taking up roster spots of importance in Barnes and Ott who were never really, productive members of our football team last year. And so, I mean, I remember, and you could probably wind this back on these, on our pods, but we kept hearing about Blaylock at the first part of fall camp, and I've been like, dude, he's not going to start. It's going to be Jaden Ott. And Jaden Ott's going to carry it 25, 30 times a game, and that's not what happened. But I do think we need that guy who is going to carry it 25 or 30 times a game. I agree. Yeah. And I do agree, Jeremy. I think we need that number one receiver, but I've got more faith in the people we have, even not counting Isaiah Satanga. I mean, obviously, Jeremy and I, growing up here in Muskogee, Shakota's, team, we played a lot in sports, and I got to see Elijah Thomas play a lot in high school. He's a guy I still have really high hopes for. I've got high hopes for Mandy Choice. Won't be shocked if Kearney and Raggins and some of those guys are gone out of the portal. Like what I saw in Jermichael Carter a little bit. I think there's some guys there, a healthy Javonte Gibson. I think there's some guys at receiver that, especially if we can just get that number one and slot everybody down, that can be good players.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where I go towards when I look at portal is where do you overspend at? And I look at it as running, and I think that's the problem that we had with Jaden Ott this year is like we poured in $2 million to a kid that didn't help you at all. So that $2 million could have gone elsewhere. And I'm not even saying running back. I'm just saying another position, got another big name because that was one of our big spendings is Jaden Ott, John Mateer, Marvin Jones Jr. Is that Marvin Jones Jr.
Yeah.
And so I mean, you look at when you spend that type of money, and that's the pressure for college sports now.
Like what you're saying, what if instead of spending for Jaden Ott, we spend for Zachariah Branch?
Yeah.
What if he's on our team as opposed to Georgia, and we just make that because Ott was allegedly down to like us in Georgia, right? So what if we just make that swap? We're probably still playing this weekend, right? I mean,
yeah, you would think, but I think that's when you look at the portal season. Don't look at because every big name you see, you always can find a spot for him for. He would look good as an OU Sooner. Well, we aren't Texas Tech and have oil money. And we'll dig into the little Texas Tech situation. Me and Josh were talking before we got on about how we really hope Texas Tech doesn't win because the amount of money they spent, it just, to me, I just think it sucks to be able to spend that type of money. But the thing is it's not going away with Texas Tech. They are going to spend money because they have it. I don't think it's ever going to get them over the hump to win a national title. But I do think it will always keep in the mix because they've got the best players and they play in the Big 12, kind of how we used to do. The thing is we're building a foundation. They're just switching out like Calipari used to with Kentucky teams. It's like you're building a new team every year. It's kind of like college basketball.
I agree with that to some degree, Jeremy, but also I think people overvalue who do you think had a better, and I realize we're talking more transfer portal here than high school recruiting. Who do you think had a higher recruiting class last year, OU or Texas Tech? I think the average person would go in that saying Texas Tech did. And this was even a more of a down recruiting year for us because of the bad year we had before. But just last year, high school recruiting wise, we were 17, Tech was 20. Okay. Tech was one spot ahead of West Virginia. Tech is getting the big name people, but I don't think they're going to have the depth to go win those things back. It's a lot like us under the latter years of Bob and the Lincoln Riley years, where you're going to have some high end talent. But the difference is, I think some of their high end talent is not necessarily a quarterback like ours was. I think their linebacker is really good. I think they've got some good players on defense, especially. But We'll just see. We'll just see how it works out. But
Yeah,
I don't think Texas Tech's really that much closer to a national championship. I know they're playing this weekend and we're not, but I think they're in about the same boat we are as far as they're going to need some things to really break right to go get a national championship.
Yeah, and I look at it, I don't think they match up real good with Oregon. I don't think they've seen a team with that much. I don't think. I know they hasn't seen a team with that much talent.
I mean, think what happened to us in a lot of those college football playoff games where we went in and played, we played the SEC team, or we played, the Clemson team that was, really good. And it was just like, holy crap, they're faster than we are. They're bigger than we are. That's a tough matchup. So,
what was one of our best teams like here recently? It was Baker's senior year. His last game against Georgia. I mean, that's probably one of our best teams we had. And we get in a dogfight with Georgia, who at the time, Georgia wasn't what Georgia is now. But that said, it was like, holy crap. There's a lot of talent in SEC. And it's like eye-opening. Now we get to get our eyes open middle of the season rather than in the playoffs. So that's one reason we look at it and say, yeah, SEC is tougher, but also, too, it gets us prepared to make runs in the playoffs. If we win against Alabama, we're set up to make a run. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But, I mean, a lot of what ifs.
Ifs and buts. And, as Al Davis and Nathan Frisbee both say, just win, baby. And that's where we want to get with this 100%. But, defensively in the portal, obviously linebacker is going to be important, especially if we don't get Kip and or Heineke back. Would like to see another defensive tackle just because I really think that rotation worked really well there last year. I think secondary is set pretty well. I'm going to go out and say I hope we bring in somebody else, not because this give this person a scholarship, but we need to have somebody else just in case our punter has completely lost it, because that last Grayson Miller, obviously was rough in that last game, but he also had a game or two during the season that were just a little bit kind of wonky as well. And certainly don't hope that's the case. But next year's team is, I said this on last week's pod, and this is how I feel. I'm not going to be satisfied with the first round college football playoff exit next year. That's not what I think the upside for that team is. It's just not. And so we need to go under every rock. And no offense, Jeremy, to me, the spotlight is on Jim Nagy. We brought Jim Nagy in for roster management for this portal season. And his reputation, a lot of his stuff is really on the line starting, I guess it'll be this next week.
Well, and he's got more money to spend this offseason too. I mean, you put a season like we did this last year, donors are a lot more giving than they were at a 60. You go to a guy, a big booster, and after a 6 and 7 season, say, "Hey, can you give us some money to pay for this player here?" And you say, "Yeah, we got to get better." But also, too, you go to the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, that same donor is saying, "I got to save money for the buyout for the coach we're going to have to fire after this year."
Well, but I mean, that's the reason we brought Nagy in, isn't it? I mean. He 100%. Is to manage the money. We're not going to overspend, guys. We will never be we brought Jim Nagy in because we are not going to be a team that just throws money around. We never will, because we do still believe in building from the high school recruiting classes.
Well, I mean, that's what the really, really good people do. They build from the high school class. And then I think what has kind of shown itself is they go out in the transfer portal and you fill gaps. But you get people who have played, who have started, who can truly be impact people. And, we've hit some in the transfer portal. It's not like we've went over in that thing. But, this is what we paid Jim Nagy the big bucks for. This is it. Hopefully, we've already seen some of the fruits of that. I do think he's taken more of a front seat on some of the recruiting things that Brent got to take a little more of a back seat, which Brent needed in order to call the defense and to do all the things that he's doing. It allows Brent to do what he's good at. And I think Brent is a guy who can close any recruit. I think he's a very charismatic, dynamic guy. but I think it's good that Nagy and company are going to be the ones making a lot of these early calls on, putting the board together. It's almost like an NFL draft. I mean, it's NFL free agency. That's what this is.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've got our draft board, we've got our numbers, and we've got essentially our salary cap to go out there and get it. I think, Jeremy, we should talk just a little bit about, there's still rumblings of, is John Mateer going to the NFL? Do we need, even if he does, who would we bring in? If he doesn't go to the NFL, do we bring in someone to compete with him? Do we just give him our walking papers? Now that it's been a little bit of time away from that, where do you sit on the John Mateer thing?
I don't think he's going. I just don't see anywhere in any world that we live in that John Mateer is not under center for first game against OU. And guys, I will tell you this, and just from me kind of watching OU and how Brent Venables coaches, if John Mateer does leave, Michael Hawkins is your starting quarterback. I know people are going to be like, oh, no, but I just feel like they put that kid in such horrible situations. They're in a bigger slap in the face than their starting quarterback leave, and you're going to let Michael Hawkins walk after you've redshirted him. I just feel like I say that if you said what's the percentage chance of John Mateer leaving, I would say 15%. In my opinion, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah,
and I think if he's going back and forth and they need a little more money to keep him here, I think OU will pay it. But that said, I don't think he can't. I know some people have told me that he's got like a 3rd round grade. I think somebody told me he had a 3rd round grade. I don't know if that.
Fourth round draft pick, is like $4 million in guaranteed money, and that's over 3 years or 4 years or whatever it is. So he would take a pay cut in that regard. If you'd asked me last week, I'd have said there's about a 5% chance John Mateer leaves. The fact that it's still lingering around probably increases mine. I'm similar to you, Jeremy, 15 to 20%. I do disagree a little bit. Unfortunately, you may be right, but I wouldn't want you to be on the Michael Hawkins thing. If he would walk, hopefully we would throw the bank at, someone like a Sorsby or, Hoover from TCU, or somebody who could come in and just do what we need that person to do. My personal pick would be, if he would walk, is if Trinidad Chambliss gets that extra year from Ole Miss, is bring him in and let some, I think he would work really well in our system. He obviously knows how to win on our field. He already has. But that being said, I don't think those are things that we're going to be talking about. But I just feel like we would be wrong in doing this pod to not mention it when there's still a lot of smoke, around that. Last week at this time, there was quite a bit of smoke on Jaden Jackson going somewhere. That smoke has really died down. Kind of the reports are out that Jackson and Stone have already, quote unquote, signed their contracts, that, those guys are in good shape, that the Bowens are both in good shape as far as, making all those things work. All of our offensive line, EPL, Fasusi, Foj, all those guys have signed contracts allegedly, and they're in good shape. Kind of the unknown names that are still out there allegedly that haven't signed contracts is Guillory, I guess, has not signed his contract, but he's a guy I think that obviously deserves a pay raise.
Yeah.
Jeremy and I are both really, really high on him. And then obviously the two big dominoes to fall really are Kip and Isaiah.
Yeah. And one reason I said Hawkins too is because I feel like if Mateer does leave, we'll kind of be blindsided by it. And there's already been talks with all these big name quarterbacks. and we're going to get in late.
We will be behind so far. Yeah.
We're going to be behind. And also, too, like, we're going to have to just back the Binks truck up. And I just don't see us doing that. But also, too, Michael Hawkins, I'm not saying he's the best quarterback ever, but how many times has that guy got put in? Probably you look at it and you say, man, this is a horrible situation to be put in. Yeah. I mean, there's not been a time where you just game plan for Michael Hawkins. And, like, he started Jackson Arnold's season, and he was running Jackson Arnold's offense. I mean, do we run that same offense if Michael Hawkins
My
is
only
there?
caveat to that is how bad he looked this year in the game as far as the mechanics and that sort of thing. But that being said, he did freaking almost kill a receiver on the first drive of the game. And I mean, that mentally shook our team. It really did. It shook him and it shook our team.
Lewis, I think said something about Hawkins' family or something. That's my only reason for him to lead him into a brick wall. That's the only thing I can think.
Yeah, but that being said, I don't like we said at the beginning, guys, there's going to be a portal surprise. There's going to be somebody we did not mention this whole podcast that we're going to be talking about next time we're on here. That's part of the portal. But just to kind of
let's go into linebacker and talk about Heineke.
Sure.
What world are we living in that this guy hasn't been cleared yet? And we've brought in a guy that's played professional basketball in Russia that's about to suit up for the University of Oklahoma. And we can't get Owen Heineke an extra season from playing lacrosse for a year.
3 games of lacrosse. Yeah.
What world are we living in?
I mean,
how is that already done?
It makes no sense, Jeremy. And I mean, even if I wouldn't agree with this. I would think it was wrong considering your situation. But even if they said, look, he's got to set 3 games next year. He played in 3 lacrosse games. He's got to go set 3 games. I don't think that's right. But at the same time, at least there would be some like rhyme or reason to it. But golly, and then the guy who just signed with Baylor, who was the 31st draft pick in the NBA draft, he was in the Karl Anthony Towns trade. This is the guy who literally got traded with Cat. Okay, I mean, this is insanity, guys, and it makes no sense.
College basketball is the most snaky sport.
Yes, but I mean, and I know people call him a dinosaur and all this stuff, and blah blah blah. But if you've got some time, go on Twitter and listen to Tom Izzo's thoughts on all this. And he talks about that he likes Scott Drew and understands Baylor doing that to some degree, but he's just like, at what point are we kidding ourselves here, guys? I mean, like, come on. It makes no sense. I saw where there was a guy who kind of put out a Hayes Fawcett looking, image thing today, graphic of a guy who's on a 2-way who's played in the NBA already this year. And, then they said the NCAA hasn't approved anyone who's actually played in the NBA yet. But I mean, if this is where we're at, guys, I mean, come on. I mean, say this is what you've got and move on. It just makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, I just have to bring that up because I'm just keep waiting for him to release that Heineke gets an extra year, and they're like, not. All they're doing is talking about professional basketball players getting to go back and play college basketball.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, well, yeah, it makes sense. Owen Heineke not getting an extra year, but I don't know. We're like Steve said, there's a lot of time. There's going to be a lot more stuff out about portal. We just figured we'd address some of what we felt like the needs were right now. And really, too, like we were talking beforehand, like we'll dig into basketball a little bit more. Right now, they didn't play a game since our last pod. I don't think it did they?
No, they have not. No, they play Mississippi Valley State or whatever. They just played the game where they shot 68% from the field right before our last pod. But definitely have a chance to start SEC play. On the right side and all that. And like Jeremy said, we'll talk more about that. A little article that I had saw, some research I'd done, I want to talk about before we get off here. This got some interesting things of the final snap counts for the year, and then the PFF scores, Pro Football Focus scores, came out for the season for us. Kind of interesting. Obviously, Mateer had the most snaps at quarterback. He had 804. Hawkins had 73. Now, Hawkins did have a higher PFF score than Mateer did. Take that for what it's worth. At running back, Torrey Blaylock had 407. Xavier Robinson had 337. Xavier Robinson had a little higher rating at 72. Javonte Barnes, 78 snaps. Jaden Knott, 69 snaps. I mean, if you would have told us that before the season starts, looking at that snap count, we would have gotten comments of how insane, that we are. Taylor Tatum had 2 snaps for the entire year. At receiver, Burks had 757, Satanga had 737, and then it drops all the way down to Giovanni Gibson, 373, Keontae Lewis, 341, Jermichael Carter, 174. And then the ones that just kind of don't make sense to me. Ivan Carrion only had 71, Elijah Thomas only had 37, Jacob Jordan only had 29, Zion Kearney had 27. So look at those 3 guys right there. Elijah Thomas, Jacob Jordan, and Zion Kearney. I mean, those are guys that we've seen, either make plays or have possibilities. Those are guys I thought would definitely play more of a role than what they did. Josiah Martin had 15, Zion Raggins 9, Manny Choice had 5. Our highest rated receiver, obviously, was Satanga. At tight end, Kanik had 572. Then it goes all the way down to Caden Helms at 201, Carson Kent at 130, Will Huggins at 87. I would have once again told you were crazy if you'd have told me Jaron Kanik had that many more snaps than everybody else at tight end before the season starts. Offensive line, Weewoo has 845, Michaela 710, Fasusi 676, Simmons 556, EPL 446, Foje 433, Heath Zaida 398, Logan Allen 221, Luke Balinko 155, Troy Everett 39, Jacob Sexton 6, Gunnar Allen 5, Daniel Akankumi 2. But it's pretty wild, Jeremy. I was surprised to see that Michaela was our second most on the line. I definitely knew Fabechi would be the highest. But it's also interesting to see just how many more snaps. I didn't think Fabechi would have 200 more snaps almost than Fasusi, or double the snaps that Foje had. That's kind of interesting to me to just kind of see the growth that those young guys can have. Because while they did get to play quite a bit, they didn't play near as much as, say, someone like Weewoo did.
And I think it is. I think it's safe to say too, maybe the preseason and the spring football talk. Maybe don't believe everything we hear. That I think we've learned anything from this offseason. How everybody talks about Jaden Knott, how he's just different than any back we've ever seen here in the last 5 or 6 years. And I'm like, he might look damn good in the spring, but boy, he pissed somebody off. So I can tell you, because if he was that good and they didn't let him on the football field, then that's a character issue. That's not a physical issue. So, and also too, injuries had a little bit to do with it. But Giovanni Gibson, everybody raved about him. Elijah Thomas, they raved about him, and so I just look at it sometimes. That's one thing I like to do at the end of the year is look at all the things we were told how great they were, and then see if they panned out. Because Brent's very big on that. He likes to bring up about almost every football player on their team, but those are always the ones that, to me, that always stuck out.
Well, I think it's interesting to see, Jeremy, that what we were told about the offense was not what we saw about the offense. Okay. We weren't told, that now we did get a little bit in the fall that Blaylock was going to be the running back, but we certainly didn't hear that until right before things were going to start. We didn't hear a little bit in the fall. We got a little bit that Satanga at times looked like our best receiver, but we didn't go into that with Satanga being our best receiver. That wasn't what we were told, long term, and that sort of thing. The information we got there was pretty inaccurate. Now, if you go and look at defense, look at the same thing. At D tackle, David Stone had 454 snaps. Grayson Holton had 422. Kind of interesting to hear. Look at the defense played 865 snaps, so 800 and something snaps. So looking at Stone played approximately half. Holton plays approximately half. Dominic Williams 372. Jaden Jackson 308. Marcus Strong 106. Well, But if you look at those top 4 guys, and Jaden Jackson fought through a lot of injury and that sort of thing. Look at those 4 guys. I mean, that was almost split down the middle, and I think that was one thing that made this team really good defensively, is we were able to split all of that time at defensive tackle. And even a guy like Marcus Strong got 106 snaps. That's quite a few, okay? And then it goes down to Trent Wilson, 29, Nigel Smith, 13, Alex Shield-Knight got 1. And you look at defensive end, it's pretty similar there as well. Taylor Wine got the most at 504. Marvin Jones got 449. R. Mason Thomas, 372. PJ got 283. Danny Aquaye got 107. And, you saw Danny Aquaye, PJ really come on more late, especially after R. Mason got hurt. But you look and see there was just a lot of rotation there as well. Yeah.
And there's just defensively, like, we had a pretty good idea of what to expect. And it's also the not knowing too on the offensive side of the ball. We have a new offensive coordinator. We're all thinking we know what, but that's why I'm not too down on Arbuckle. Like, he's going to have another year. Like, he's got a full year under his belt, calling plays at OU. It's a different beast than calling plays at Washington State. I just feel like year 1 to year 2, I'm not saying there's going to be a huge jump, guys. I'm just saying, like,
but he knows what he's looking for. Just like, and this is what I'm trying to get out of this point is Brent knows what the defense needs to look like. And what we heard is kind of what we saw. Now, Kip Lewis, 546. Kendall Daniels, 541. Owen Heineke, 468. Kobe McKenzie, 331. Samuel Masigo, 297. Now, going into that, did I think that, and if you go back to why is Kobe in the portal, out of 800 and something snaps, he only played 330 of them. Okay. So, he was on the field less than half the time. He was also by far our lowest rated linebacker. Everyone else was in the mid to upper 70s. He's at a 61. So, that being said, it kind of makes some sense. If you go to corner, this is probably something, if you'd asked me what defensive player plays the most snaps, I don't think any of us would have said Cortland Guillory before the season started. But even last spring, there was talk about what this guy looked like. 640 from him, 462 from Eli Bowen, 232 from Devon Jordan, 178 from Gentry. At corner, at safety, Peyton Bowen played 679, so he actually has the most. He actually played a little more than Guillory did. RSJ played 589. Reggie Powers played 333. Michael Bojanowski plays 245. Jaden Hardy plays 164. And for all the talk we talked about Kendall Dolby being a difference maker and blah, 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 he played 64 snaps. So, once again, but we know, there you go.
Hey, how many snaps did Kendall Daniels have?
Kendall Daniels had 541, and he was a 78 PFF rank. And just to let you know, Peyton Bowen was an 80.1, and R. Mason was an 82.6. Grayson Holton was an 84.2. And then it was then it was Kendall Daniels, 78.1. So
If you want to know why Kendall Dolby didn't play, that's why.
There you
go. Kendall Daniels, nothing against Dolby, but Kendall Daniels, Dolby.
6'5" freak athletes. They tend to be pretty good at stuff.
I don't grow those on trees anymore. So, I know we pushed our pod back because, believe it or not, we have kids and it's Christmas time. So it is the most special time of the year. Did you get any good gifts? I know I got spoiled.
Okay. Okay. Speaking of gifts, guys, let's all, if you're on YouTube, Jeremy, give us a lean back here. Yes. Sooner Cast.
Brother, this is my
Brad.
shirt. My brother got me this shirt for Christmas. It's a Sooner Cast shirt. So, if you guys like it, let me know. Maybe we'll start making it and selling them.
There we go. Yeah. So, hey, Brad, if you need my mailing address to send me one, I'll pass that along.
I did confirm my brother does subscribe to us, so he does subscribe.
There you go.
He also got me a cup that said, asked me about my podcast. So that's
okay. There we go. So hey.
He went podcast heavy on my gifts. So
hey, that's all right.
I'm currently building a Arrowhead Stadium Lego set. I did an OU football stadium last year for Baker, and now this year my brother was sweet enough to get him an Arrowhead Stadium one. So it's great. My son loves the Chiefs. I cannot stand them. Yeah. Just because they win, and I don't like winners. So that's just the way it goes. So. I hate winning, all right?
But just a little insight into Goss and the quirky character that is me from time to time. I'm a terrible gift receiver. It's just who I am. I don't mean it as bad as it comes, but one of the things we were going through stockings, Aaron, Allie, and I were, and we're going through, and I pull out a deal, and it's some AirPods. It's a nice gift, and I pulled it out, and I turned to Aaron, and I was like, "Are these for me?" She's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Well, I just bought some new AirPods in like October," and she was like, "I'm not buying you anything ever again," and I'm like, "No, I mean, it's just good. I mean, like I can use more, I can use more than one pair, but." That's what it's like, guys. That's who I am. That's what's about. I do.
That's great. It. You got AirPods. I got AirPods. So then I got AirPods. So now I've got some work AirPods and some home AirPods. So there we go. It's all a good thing. Now, when I got my AirPods, I didn't say AirPods again. Oh,
yeah.
I already got these things.
Yeah, so that's who I am.
I guess.
Maybe next year I'll do better.
Thanks, I guess.
But yeah,
I got my wife a towel warmer, which is great. Now my wife's kind of same as you. She's like, it's cool and all, but how long you got to put it in there to warm it up? I like a real warm towel. I was like, okay. I was like, so it sucks, and she's like, I mean, I'm sure to be good. So Lindsay does no remorse. She does not care to tell me like this is a bad gift. Like she will go and tell people about this K-cup holder I got her for our Keurig like years. Like I think we've been married a year, and she still tells people that day. Funny part about that whole story is still use it. It's still in our house being used.
I bought Aaron a crock pot one time for her birthday, and you thought, whoosh, that's a terrible gift. But it's still in there.
Yeah. So I know, like, what do you want me to cook or something? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
They can turn everything around on you. God love them. Hey, speaking of that, Goss, you just celebrate 19 years?
Let's see. No, 18. No, 17. 17. I should know how long I've been married. Yeah, 17.
Well, it doesn't matter. She doesn't listen anyway, so we're good.
Well, yeah, who cares? It's fine. So yeah, 17 years. I
should have known that because
yesterday. So yeah, there we go.
Me and Lindsay will be 17 in May. I should have known that. We pretty much do the same thing as each other. So you're like, I'm going to get married. I'm like, I'm going to get married. You're like, I'm going to have a kid. I'm like, all right, I'll have a kid. Now I had two more thinking you're going to have two more, and you kind of screwed me on that one. So.
Yeah, whoops. My bad. My bad on that one.
I've been talking to your in-laws, man. Like, don't y'all need more kids? So.
Well, if you talk to Steven. But before I get in trouble, let's just remind people you can always send your thoughts to soonercast@gmail.com.
Yes. Subscribe to our YouTube. Hey, we got a good viewership on our last end of the year one. But not many subscribers. So if you're listening to it, just hit the subscribe button. It's pretty easy.
We're going to have to be like Josh Pate and have the little ad in the middle of our deals of, hey, wait just a minute. Look down. You see the bell? Okay. Don't
stop.
Smash it.
Why are you listening to this and not subscribing?
And here's the deal. We would take the corporate greed if someone would give us the money, but they're not going to. So in order for us to just keep doing this, because you obviously do like it, there's lots of people who are listening. You're like, those guys are idiots. They make me feel better about myself. Please subscribe so that way we can keep doing this and, at least impress somebody just a little bit more. But again, guys, thanks for all that you do. Boomer Sooner, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Boomer Sooner.